Hello, welcome to On the Bench. I'm your host for this episode, Brendan Sinone. I'm joined by Zach Blostein. Oh boy, off to a great start. I almost said Blostein. I don't know how we not pronounce it correctly. Want to
Don't
pronounce
say
it
that.
So, and Chris Nee. Welcome, gents, to OTB. A quick question for you: What's the most sophomore childish thing that you partake in? Chris shot up with that. He's interested. I know Chris collects comic books. I don't think that's going to be number one here for him.
I mean, I don't know. I love good old fashioned idiotic comedy, like turn your brain off comedy.
Okay.
Like super bad, for example, would be
super bad on Hulu right now.
So,
just saying. What about you, Zach?
Probably video games. Is that childish?
Depends what video games, I guess. I mean, us all playing CFB 25 and the amount of arguments we were getting into was pretty childish back.
Dude, we got in some real arguments, especially you and Dane.
I was not part of that.
Dane was being kind of a B during his. And then Brett threw and broke his controller too. So yeah. My wife was like, "What's happening to you guys? This game's killing all of you slowly." Zach's like, "I've never been this mad playing this game before."
Brendan is the worst to play against, or he was back before he knew how to play the game.
I don't understand.
You were awful. You ran trick plays every single down. You didn't throw the ball. It was the worst. I'm Team Dane.
Scummy. All right. Mine is probably I partake in some places I've been like 12 years old. I watched the NFL draft with my best friends, and we've been doing that since middle school. And it's changed a little bit. Like we still get together, and they're in different parts of the country now. We go to Chattanooga. We've gone to Las Vegas. We've gone to Asheville. We're going to Chicago next year potentially. This year we went to the beach. But the big difference is we still play a bunch of video games. We talk a bunch of crap about prospects, but now I just drink a lot of alcohol during it. So, which brings me to Chattanooga Whiskey, the sponsor of our podcast. Yes, much Chattanooga Whiskey was enjoyed this weekend. I brought down multiple bottles, and the wide variety that Chattanooga Whiskey offers, you can find it throughout the state of Florida, throughout the Southeast. Absolutely crushing it in the craft distillery game. They do a great job. We did not, like we have past years during the draft, break anything in any of the houses that we were staying in. We did knock down a door a few years ago. Gets a little rambunctious, I'm not going to lie. What? Don't judge me, Zach. They tried to make me eat a sandwich, and I didn't want it.
At first, I thought it was just like a wholesome thing and not really childish. But now I guess my mind has changed.
But if you do end up destroying the house and you need to get a new one, who would you reach out to for that?
The Turner Group.
The Turner Group, absolutely. Colin, Amy Turner doing amazing. What's funny, Chris? No, sorry, Colin. Colin, Amy Turner do an amazing job in the home buying and selling market. They're going to work really hard for you guys if you're thinking about entering it. I know it can be volatile at times, but they make it as easy as possible. Well connected, going to work really hard for you. What was funny, Chris?
It's a hell of a transition. That's all.
Smooth transition. Crushed it. Just like Chattanooga Whiskey in the craft distillery game. All right, guys. A lot happened this week. I think that was my ultimate point. Was a lot happened while I was kind of out of pocket. I tried my best to be somewhat available to help work, but I appreciate Chris stepping up and handling a few extra things more than usual. And I think there's a lot to get to. I have something I'm pretty impassioned about, but I think the biggest headline from this week is FSU lands one of the best available players in the transfer portal, and that's cornerback Jeremiah Wilson from Central Florida. Initially was at Houston this past year. We 24/7 Sports have a 92 grade on him. I think On3 had a really high ranking on him as well. I don't know the exact grade, but
like 96 or something.
Well, that's well thought of. It was a position of need for Florida State. Chris, you talked to him the exit interview. Let's just real quick before we break down his game and the need filled and stuff. Like I like his vibes just as a person. It kind of reflects it, I think, in how he plays too. But just like what kind of paint the picture for like how the whole commitment thing happened, because it wasn't flashy. It was just I'm committed.
Yeah, he high level of exuberance about committing and the place he's committing to. He's excited about it. And talking to a couple people familiar with him, he likes football. Like it's kind of cut and dry. He's just a kid that really enjoys playing the game of football, likes competing, and is excited to do so. He's played for Tony White previously at Syracuse, a familiarity there, understands the system, how he'll be used in the system is probably a variety of ways. Not a guy who's solely on the corner. I do expect him probably primarily to play field corner, but I think he can play multiple spots with what Tony White does in the back half of his defense. But yeah, if you watch the interview from what day was that? Was that Saturday or Friday? They all start running
They're
together.
all kind of the same
Friday.
thing as well.
Friday, but his departure interview, he's excited and like it's cool. Like he went out of his way to try to thank everybody that was involved in his visit, and I'm not just talking on-field coaches. I'm talking support staff, recruiting staff, all of it. Right before we started talking to him in the video, he asked the young ladies' names that were with him, as well as Coach Riz, and they were all talking. And I it was refreshing in a day and age where everything feels so transactional. It was kind of nice to see a kid that seemed to be running high on emotions.
Real quick, I need to clarify. Chattanooga whiskey did not make me break any doors down. They have a good kind of buzz to it. It's not near responsible. And that was probably SoCo like 5 or 6 years ago. I'm just saying. Just think we should have addressed that.
I didn't think it really needed to be addressed or anyone cared, to be honest.
Zach, this was a huge get for Florida State. I think we need to give like FSU in the process here a hat tip because it fills a need. A guy with scheme experience, a guy who was recruited by Tony White. I don't want to like overstate it, but I think it's as good as you probably could have done at a position of need that we thought was a position of need for quite some time now.
Yeah, I mean, this was before the portal opened, I reported that there were certain types of players I thought FSU would be in play for. And one group that I did not include was these top tier, high end spring portal entries, the guys that were highly ranked, super sought after, going to command a lot of money. But the one caveat that I mentioned was if they have a clear connection to the staff, to the school, whatever, right? Like a James Williams in the last portal cycle. That's a guy that, if FSU had no connections to, would be tough to land. But like in Jeremiah Wilson's case, FSU had a number of connections to him, including, you mentioned, Tony White being his primary recruiter at Syracuse. That ultimately helped him end up at FSU. That connection dating back multiple years to when the both of them were at Syracuse together. His familiarity with the defensive scheme of Tony White, the 3-3-5, which he's continued to play in. I think that he's a perfect fit from that standpoint at the field corner spot. And yeah, I mean, he's got multiple connections just being a state of Florida guy. He trains in the offseason with Kai Bates, another FSU DB on the roster, and knows several of the other players who had, I was told had been in contact with him at certain points throughout his transfer recruitment. I'm a fan. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the take and big fan of the process for Florida State and how they got this one done. Didn't let it, go into several visits. Got it finished up after his first and only visit of his portal process, which is how you want to do it. And as much as we criticize their slow start, the last podcast, like this was a really nice way to kind of start things off of the guys that the final additions that they're making to this roster ahead of the 25 season.
Yeah, to me, Jeremiah, who likes to go by Jerry, and for the record is from Kissimmee, so that's why he has like Kai Bates, Central Florida ties going on there. He's a starter level take, which I didn't know if they would have any of those in this portion of the portal process. And to me, that's a very good thing. Even if he does not end up necessarily a starter at 1 or 2 cornerback spots, he definitely, I think, will push guys like Jabril and Quindarius who need to be pushed. And I think it alleviates a lot of concerns that you had with regards to the corner. And it just adds another number to that secondary group as you do try to figure out roles and different places for different guys. But he's an experienced guy, immediately plug and play in the system because he understands the system, and you've seen him in said system previously. And in general, I just think he's an experienced college football player who understands what it takes to come and compete and play at a high level.
He's starting.
I agree. I think he'll end up starting, yes.
I think it'll be him and Jabril Rawls who will open the season to start.
Yeah, I think that's the expectation as of right now.
My thing is, the thing that interests me is which spot in the secondary he ultimately kind of earns the starting role at. Like, I think he does start. I agree with you there. I'm interested how he pushes the corners. Does he become a nickel? Do they move him around? Maybe even play him at safety? I think they're not interested, but I think they feel comfortable with the idea if he can play a number of spots.
I think we'll see. Yeah, I think going back to I think December when the dust settled and we talked about the initial portal haul, what was it, 16 players or so? I recall us being surprised that they did not bring in a secondary player, whether it was a corner or a safety. We were surprised by that, and we articulated we thought that was a misstep at the time, especially a veteran level one, someone with the presence of who could have some familiarity with this type of scheme. At the time I was thinking maybe someone from Nebraska who actually played in it. This is just as good because he played under Tony White, I know, a few years ago at Syracuse. Um, but you go and you watch how he played at Houston this past year. That's a zone heavy defense. They ran a 3-3-5 or something kind of like it at times last year. Actually, Houston runs more zone than even Tony White did at Nebraska last year. So well adept in it. And you start looking at some of his production, and that brings me to what we were talking about, like where he plays. We'll see where Florida State views him. I will say, like at Houston this past year, he was almost entirely a cornerback. And I'm not sure if it was boundary field, how they would rotate it around, but he was almost always an outside corner in their system.
Yeah. He also said in the interview that FSU's bringing him in as a field corner.
Okay. So that's where I would view him. So he's 5'10". I will say that is a knock on him. It's why I'm a little surprised that he's being viewed quite in the safe 90 range that he is by ourselves and others as well. But I had him like a 90. I think is right on the fringe there, and I push it in because of the scheme fit, because he is so good in zone coverage. That's what you want to do. I have some metrics here that I kind of point to the zone coverage stuff being really strong there. 88.7 coverage grade in zone coverage per PFF. That's near elite. That's knocking on the door there. He really just like instinctual overall in coverage as well. This past year at Houston, he had more incompletions forced or interceptions, 12 total. They had first downs allowed, 9. Like, I thought that was impressive. And then you just watch how like hard he plays, how quick he triggers to stop either the run, when it bounces outside, or the perimeter screen game. Like, he plays really hard, and that's going full circle to what Chris talked about with his interview. Just kind of the exuberance he has, like that shows up on the football field. So like high floor raiser, think a ceiling raiser too to an extent. I love it. I think it's a really good take for Florida State. It's when his name showed up in the transfer portal in the group chat. Zach was like, "Hey, like this guy, we liked him back when he initially entered the portal in December. I'm not entirely sure why he didn't go through with it, but returned to Houston for the spring. Showed up again. We're like, yes, that has to be a guy you go all in on. They did. Hats off to Florida State. If you're going to be slow and methodical in your portal process, this is the type of results you need to have. Is you have to, when you really go in on someone, you get it wrapped up like Zach alluded to. And this was a good get for you. I like it a lot. What does it say, guys, about the rest of the cornerback room? Like, do we take anything? Do we glean anything from the fact that we thought this was a need, that they went and they obviously allocated? I would imagine, Mississippi State was involved in this recruitment, so an SEC team. It's not, I'm sure, a cheap acquisition. Excuse me. How do we go about like viewing how they view the rest of the cornerback room? What does this do for that position group? Does it allow guys to get moved? I guess how do we view this holistically?
I think it was a matter of Rawls and Jones went into the spring as a perceived likely starters. If you're doing a pre-spring depth chart, exited the spring probably still in that, but I don't think the comfort level was great with the idea of that being your 1-2 and what was next after it. This adds a number to that group to allow it kind of figure itself out, while also just adding depth at a position where you usually have to lean into it some as the year goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it moves around guys a ton in that room, because I think you just needed a stabilizing force to that unit. To me, like I think he provides that stability, and it allows some of those younger guys to come along, like a Charles Lester or Kai Bates or whoever else that needs to provide some quality depth in that position group. Like, I think that's what it does more than anything. I could see, like, it also helps like a guy like Quindarius Jones, because we've obviously talked about him needing to continue to progress within the new defensive scheme. He has talent. We've seen it on display throughout his career, but it hasn't been consistent enough, especially this spring. So I think, like in his case, having another guy that you can depend on to play in a starter role while Quindarius comes along and hopefully can figure it out. I think it's a good thing. So yeah, I think those are kind of the impacts of an addition like this.
The other transfer commitment that they picked up over the weekend was from ETSU. That's Eastern Tennessee State, I think. Yeah. Quarterback transfer, Jaylen King. He's from South Georgia initially, Southeast Georgia. I don't know if he has some ties to Thomas Castellanos. They played high school football pretty close to each other. But I'll let Chris take this from here. He's the one who broke the story. He also wrote the commitment story. So you kind of have this beat, Chris. Let's talk a little bit about Jaylen King.
Yeah, I heard he was coming on Friday to come in on Saturday. He comes in, visits. In the middle of the visit, during a brief period as he was waiting to get picked up to go do more of the visit, spoke to him briefly along with a couple others. And, he was up front that his intention was to commit during the visit, and that's where he intended to be. He's a run-first type of quarterback. He also has played 2 years. He played his first year at Gardner-Webb and then followed his coach to ETSU and played last year. Numerous starts over those 2 seasons, good amount of experience in those 2 seasons. I think there's a degree of he wants the red shirt. He wants to kind of sit back and learn and develop. And for FSU, with the departure of Trevor Jackson to Arkansas, to me, I just view it as sort of a 1-for-1 trade there with a scout team / developmental quarterback that you have on your depth chart to give you emergency depth, while also being a guy who's run heavy, which obviously is going to fit the expected system that we see under Gus Malzahn.
Brendan, what are your thoughts on this?
I know I have some strong feelings about this, surprisingly so. So real quick, as we look at, we're going to talk about the roster composition and 105, limit and all that stuff shortly, because that's what we love to do. That's what I love to do. But you look at quarterback, they have Thomas Castellanos, Brock Glenn, Trevor Jackson left, Kevin Sperry. Those are your top 3. Those are the guys they refer to as the 3. Then in the kind of the walk-on mold, you have Michael Grant and then Galvin Markey, who was a later addition as like a run first prep quarterback, kind of a scout team guy. What was that? Oh, what? I thought someone said something. I'm still hungover. I'm not going to lie. Not that Chattanooga whiskey hurt me. Just, I made bad decisions. I had macaroni and cheese in 3 consecutive meals at one point. Different places, too. It wasn't like leftover mac and cheese. Like I said, sophomore. Anyways, I kind of thought when Trevor Jackson left that it was basically, okay, Gavin Markey's going to be your scout team quarterback at that point. And that was it. So that you add Jaylen King. So you have 6 quarterbacks that you're carrying right now. As far as we know, the transfer window came and went. So it's not like Michael Grant transferred out. So you have 6 that you're carrying. As we start kind of counting just the overall amount of players left that you can add, what the roster's projected at right now, we think you could probably add around 4 more spots. Right, Chris? We have them at 101 projected right now.
Believe that's the number, yes.
So it will get into the remaining needs and whatnot, but they're gonna run up against it a little bit. And again, unless something happens that we're not privy to right now. For a guy who, projects as a scout team player for you right now, as a developmental prospect at best, I don't know. I didn't mind the take at the time. I kind of saw what they were doing, but then I started crunching numbers this morning. I didn't love it. I guess I feel like it kind of carrying 6 quarterbacks seems like a lot. Even if there's a couple who are more scout team redshirt types, that feels like a lot in how you're kind of allocating it. Anyways, that was my critique of it. I didn't think it was best roster management practice, but there could be things happening that I'm not fully privy to also. What do we want to talk about now, guys?
Biscuit.
Oh,
I got strong feelings about that too. All right, so
you have strong feelings today. A lot of strong feelings.
I've been told I'm emotional.
I feel like you're on the couch with us. All right. So what's your strong feelings on Biscuit?
I disliked actively them taking him back in December. I think it's a bad precedent. I think we articulated it. So it's not like this is a hindsight revisionist history. I think we said on the pod, definitely on the message board, it's out there. It's somewhere. Find it, clip it. I didn't like it. He comes in this spring, gets in the best shape of his life. They're thrilled with it. Has a clear path to playing time. Best shape of his life is all relative, but for a guy whose nickname became Biscuit, I don't think because he was so skinny. Like he gets to 255, looks good, carrying it well. He's a blocking specialist for you. That's what you want him to be. That's what his path to playing time is. They were really happy with how he was in the spring. Part of when they talked about the tight end group being the group they're most excited about. Yeah, like I think it's I was going to say Kevin Sperry's not playing tight end. It was Chase Lofted. I'm getting white guys from the Midwest confused. Is Oklahoma the Midwest?
I don't
it's the
think
Southwest.
so.
Anyways,
more
but what about
Southwest.
Nebraska? Is that the Midwest?
I think that falls more into a Southwest too, but it's right.
Nebraska's the Southwest? No,
Nebraska's got to be the Midwest.
But it used to be in the Big 12, which was more of a.
This is a Brian Peroni question. He's far more geographical whiz of that portion of the country.
Anyways, I'm derailing us. I apologize. I'm known to do that. Anyways, you have Chase Lofton who you're excited about. You have Randy Pittman, Grenade, who you're also excited about. But this was part of it. Marcus and Douglas was going to be his own. When we talk about unique body types, unique whatever, it was part of the group. He leaves. He declares for the transfer portal like in the final hour, like on Friday. I think they had to midnight on Friday. He announced it. When was it? Friday? It was Saturday.
I announced on Saturday.
So he must have put the name in real late. That actually leaves you in kind of a precarious position, and you now all of a sudden have a need at tight end. I know people are going to roll their eyes and be like, "That doesn't really affect." Bullshit. You want to run the ball a ton. He is your one inline blocking tight end you have on the roster other than Landon Thomas, who's more of a receiving threat at this point in his career. Like he leaves you high and dry. So what you're forced to do is either negotiate with him to bring him back, which I think only further adds to the precedent if that does happen of like, oh, this guy left you. You then let him come back. You get him. You hope get him into the best shape of his life, and then he's going to leave you again. Like I think that sets a bad precedent. Or you're going to have to kind of go skimming at the bottom with the very end of the transfer portal because the guy who you allowed back decided to leave you at the very last minute at the altar. Like I don't know. I understand that this is a mercenary sport more now than it ever has been. The idea of culture and accountability cannot be enforced if you don't enforce it. And that's my strong feeling on it.
Yeah. And it's like, what's stopping other guys in a similar predicament to Biscuit from trying to renegotiate at the
well, now it's just
now they can't. But I'm saying in the future, like guys on the team that saw this play out, like what kind of long-term precedent does it set for guys that they know if they leave this roster, they're putting this staff in a tough position because they're providing some value, like Biscuit with his specialty being blocking at the tight end spot, which FSU doesn't really have any other clearly capable options at the position. Like what's stopping them from going and trying to leverage the staff? And what makes it worse is the fact that like you just let him back into the program after he didn't do that much at Arizona State.
I always feel like he's discussed as a blocker in a magnitude that's far greater than what he actually is. But I do understand that's his role.
I agree, Chris. But that's also this is like the same thing as the Jaylen Brown discussion. That's who they're banking on. That's who they're banking on for a certain role.
I get it. The other thing is, don't you usually get skinny after the breakup instead of before the breakup?
That's smart, honestly. All right, if we can just look at this holistically. If you're kind of on, you get skinny. You do a preemptive one, and then you have them groveling back to you. Just saying, or you hit the market ready to go too.
So who else hit the portal since the last time we talked? Tamir Hickman Collins, which really just disappoints me because I'll never be able to use THC in a quick reference. Not quick, a
that's we need to like play like bugle or something, like the end of the like substandard 3-star
three named
linebacker recruit. I don't want to make it a thing where we're taking a shot like at Tamir Hickman.
Yeah, he's a good
really
kid.
Nice. It's just like legitimately when we found out he was a take, we were at Burger Barn, all three of us, right? I got COVID the next day.
Who was it? Was it Chris?
No, I've never had COVID, so it couldn't be me.
COVID would legitimately kill Chris. I think we're all pretty sure about that. Sorry, Chris.
I'm built for it.
Stay clean, my friend. But I had someone, a group of 5 coach, reach out to ask if that was a real take for Florida State at the time, because the group of 5 coach didn't have a take grade on them, and just it was a time, guys. It was a time. It's a position that's still
linebackers.
Exactly. Go. Where was this? Where was this intel a year and a half ago? And
No one had my back then.
I think Denaz White also happened. It either happened as we were recording last week or immediately before or after. But it was this time last week. It was Monday of last week.
If a Denaz White falls in the tree and no one's falls.
God, Brennan, you are struggling today. Yeah, another depth D tackle who truthfully missed probably 75% of on-field availability last year because of injury. So, like, it felt like a completely waste.
He got passed up by Kevin Wynn.
And you also have Jamori Flegg, so you're just basically slicing it in half and keeping one. It's a numbers move.
So I think that's hang on, I got it real quick. I think that's everyone. Aaron Hester left. That wasn't a big surprise. TJ Ferguson.
We had talked about Hester and Ferguson. I believe
TJ Ferguson having a 90 grade.
So the outgoing transfer count is up to 34, by the way.
What?
34 outgoing transfers.
It's a lot.
Yep.
But as we look at
this window,
no, just total.
No, just total. They didn't have 34 guys.
No, I meant like 10 of them were in this window.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yes.
As we look at like the holistic like part of the roster, though, I'm surprised, and I think in a positive way, that there wasn't more. Like we had a lot of pre-writes done, and there were a few that I'm surprised didn't leave that I thought probably should, but generally, like, I thought there's a decent chance you were going to lose either Edwin Joseph or Shaheem Brown. And you didn't, and you retained them. I know there were rumors we were chasing for a few days there about Daryl Jackson that never really materialized in anything of substance to my knowledge. He stays, obviously. That's big. But like basically, like there was a lot of there had the chance to be more. And Zach, you got your coffee. And you didn't. And I think by and large, they're happy with what they have. Now you have needs still, right? You still have positions to fill. Again, we have 4 roster spots to talk about. Now they have brought in some other visitors, or they're going to bring in some others as well. That thing kind of gives us an idea, an inkling of their plans. Now the wide receiver transfer offers that we talked about last week when we recorded, the BYU kid went to Miami. The San Jose State one went to Louisville. But they did get another transfer on campus. He visited. He's an Ocala native, Tony Johnson, from Cincinnati. Previously was actually kind of like his backstory, guys. He was a walk-on at FAU, self-made guy, became pretty productive for them. Actually was probably his most efficient and effective in a role that Cincinnati used for him this past season. He had like 400 receiving yards, nothing crazy, but that's kind of the waters that they're swimming in. So he visited. When was it, Zach? Thursday?
Over the weekend. Yeah, it was like Saturday, Sunday.
He was here the same time Jaylen King was here.
Was he really? Oh, God, all the days.
Yeah, they both got in Saturday morning. He technically left town Sunday morning, but like he was done at the Moore on Saturday evening. We didn't see him when he departed the Moore. Didn't get up with him then. I think Zach's had some communication with him.
Yeah, I called him. He was at the airport. He was about to board his flight, but he told me he was going home to figure some things out, or going back to Cincy to figure some things out. So, and I asked him about if he had any other visits, and he made it seem like he didn't at that point. He tweeted something last night like prayers in advance or whatever, something like that, indicating that a decision could be coming soon.
Yeah, and he had visited UCF in Miami prior to FSU. Clearly evident that it seems like he would like to return to Sunshine State.
Yeah, I asked Gabby from the Miami site about like Miami's stance on him, because they obviously landed Keelan Marion, like Brendan mentioned, from BYU. It sounds like he's not a top target in the portal for them at receiver, because
they're kind of similar to each other.
Those two?
Yeah, at least how they were used. They were both pretty much like a lot of screen or jet sweep type of guys.
I feel like he's like exactly what FSU needs as like the third receiver.
I do too. If they end up taking Tony Johnson, or he ends up committing, because I think he is a take at this point, given that he's the only wide receiver that's visited, and they clearly are telling you that they're in the market for a wide receiver. Yeah, he's steady. In his FAU film, there's a lot more like deep speed juice, lower level competition, but you see that a little bit more. Whereas Cincinnati, they used him as more of like a perimeter game type of specialist, or like a slot, like under uh, under the top of safety coverage type of guy, zone beater type. And I think that's what you need, because you have Deuce Robinson. He's your big 9 wide receiver, the on ball guy. You have Squirrel White, who's more your jet sweep specialist, and then you need a slot receiver basically. And the slot wide receiver, as I understand it, in this offense is supposed to be kind of a complete uh, do everything type of guy. I think it's why they have Javon Boggs probably going to work there too. And so that would be your 4. And I actually feel pretty good about that. On paper, that's a high end of production, decent ceiling as well with Deuce Robinson. Yeah, I would feel good about that if you got it. I think we have an 88 grade on him as a network. And yeah, I think that's, I think I'm at 87. So yeah, I like it. That'd be good. And they also have 2. So we think offensive line, we think wide receiver is a need still. If we had to allocate one of the 4, I think we agree that that's probably.
They certainly seem to be interested. I think the injury to Luane McCoy during the spring probably plays a role in that. Elijah's a guy they keep, Mike Norvell keeps mentioning Elijah, but it's also a matter of Elijah Moore. He has to continue to do things better. That room we've talked about how it's sort of like 1A and 1B is very clearly set with Deuce and Squirrel, and they liked what Javon Boggs did, but there's a whole lot of sort of what if going on with the rest of that room.
So that brings us to another position in need. And I know we've kind of gone back and forth with it, but their actions are telling us offensive line is one that they think. They have had multiple visitors set up, both in the offensive tackle variety. Zach, I'll let you talk about those 2 real quick, but it does seem like a swing tackle to kind of help out with depth is kind of important for them.
Yeah, I don't think it's purely offensive tackle, because the first guy I'm going to talk about, the Vanderbilt offensive lineman, Josh Raymond. He's a redshirt freshman, did not play this past season at Vandy, but was highly thought of by Herb Hand that, when he was at UCF. He's a Central Florida native. And he told me that FSU is recruiting him to play guard when I talked to him on the phone this past week. He's visiting UCF and FSU back-to-back this upcoming week. I think he gets to FSU on Wednesday, right after the UCF visit. I think he'll probably end up at FSU. His girlfriend attends Florida State. I just think that's where he wants to end up. But, we'll see if UCF can change that. I think he would be like a Jalen Early type replacement. I know Early could play some tackle, but I think he'd, be kind of a rotational guard type for FSU. He was competing to play guard, the starting guard position at Vandy this spring, but I don't know if he was like in line to. I mean, him entering the portal probably indicates that he was not going to be a starter. And then the other potential, visitor, just I want to preface it because he does have 2 other visits to SEC schools before he's expected at FSU, is Jalen Caldwell out of Grand Valley State, the D2 school. I'm pretty. Wasn't that where that D tackle was last year? JBR Suggs.
Yeah. And they also had another defensive lineman. I don't know where he ended up winning, but they had another guy who ended up being a FBS level.
Okay.
It is a D2 powerhouse for what it's worth.
Gotcha. He's 6'6", 330, around that range. I talked to him. He's funny. He was saying, he didn't start playing football until his senior year of high school. He thought he was going to be a professional gamer. And they got him to play football. He figured it out enough to get a D2 offer, took it, has played the past 2 seasons there, and has been pretty solid. And then, now he's getting looks by Kentucky, Missouri, and FSU. All 3 of those schools are set to bring him in on campus throughout the next week. He's at Kentucky right now. He heads to Missouri on Thursday, and then FSU is set to bring him in on Saturday of this upcoming week. He told me that he plans to take all of his visits, but whenever the portal process goes on, these schools try to lock these recruitments down once they're on campus if they want the kid. I don't believe he has offers from these 3 schools yet, but I think all 3 of them want to see him in person, see if the size checks out and everything else is, checks out in person. It's kind of part of the evaluation process is getting these guys on campus and doing that part of it. So we'll see. I do think he's an intriguing option because he can play tackle. And FSU, I think, probably needs some more depth at the tackle position just because the 2 expected, 2 deep guys, Lucas Simmons and Jonathan Daniels, have both obviously not played much at all for FSU to this point. And I think it would be smart to add a guy with some experience to that room.
Yeah, so FSU has 14 offensive linemen currently on campus, and they have 17 currently designated to be on campus for the fall. You got 3 high schoolers that will join them in May. With the 3 high schoolers joining them in May, you don't really expect those guys to ever contribute year 1 at that position. It's just not something you should, want to happen, barring a uniquely special individual talent. The 1 high schooler already on campus in that class is Mario Nash Jr. Also, don't think he probably helps them this year. We've pretty clearly defined that we think 4 of the starters on the O-line are the 4 transfers: Micah Pettis and Gunnar Hansen at tackle spots, Luke Pettibon at center, Adrian Medley at a guard spot, joined by Richie Leonard, who was here obviously last year. I think some of the moves on the O-line are because of departures, TJ Ferguson being a depth piece on the interior, and also injuries. Jacob Rizzi's a guy who got banged up during the spring. Not sure what the expectation is for him come August. I presume the goal is for him to work back, but I don't know exactly. We don't have a definitive timetable there. So really on the interior, the next guy is Andre Otto, and I know they love Otto, and Otto had a good spring, but after Otto, there's just not like a definitive depth piece right now. Rizzi's hurt. Bryson Estes feels like a career backup at FSU. And then as you were talking about at tackle, it's Lucas Simmons, Jonathan Daniels, Manasseh Atite. Those are your 3 reserves. So if you can sort of put a guy who fits in between at tackle with some experience and then add a guy at guard who you think is a capable talent who's been in a collegiate program already for a year, which puts him ahead of those 4 high schoolers you're adding, that's why I think those are the 2 options. I personally would prefer a guard with more collegiate experience, but if this is a young man that you think has long-term benefits to you, then I understand that being your take versus an experienced guy because it's a number situation. You're probably unlikely able to take both.
The number situation is where it gets interesting, I think. So we talk about having 4 spots roughly.
Yeah, receiver's one of those, so you're down to 3. If you're taking 2 O-line, you're down to 1. As it stands right now.
You need a tight end. You can't go in with 3 scholarship tight ends. With one of them is more of a wide receiver than a tight end or the first year of his career.
Well, you have 4 scholarship tight ends. But Randy Pittman, Amari Williams, Landon Thomas, Chase Lofton.
I don't count Amari Williams as a tight end.
He didn't play tight end at all this spring, right?
No.
But I think if you're all
right, so if Amari Williams is a tight end for you, then you 100% need a defensive end in the transfer portal because he's going to be your 3rd down pass rush guy. Maybe they have plans to play both. Just that
Mike Norvell continues to say that he can play both. I mean,
I know he can play both,
but he was much more needed at edge in the spring. But that makes the tight end situation even.
I think the spring for him at the edge also was a matter of we want to sort of be a master of one instead of attempting to do both type of situation.
Would anyone like to wager which side of the ball he gets more snaps on this?
I think he plays more DN.
And even let's say he does play like a 75-25, which I don't think that'll be the case. He's still not. There's no one else who has a inline, like legit. The only person who I think has inline ability for you right now is Landon Thomas.
Yeah,
and for a team that for Gus Malzahn, probably going to run 55-60% of the time. Like, okay.
So is there someone out there you go get, or do you talk Biscuit out of what he's doing and take him back?
I wouldn't talk Biscuit back into it at this point. I think for the big picture, I don't know what they're going to do. I think they'll try to talk him back. Because the market, as far as I can tell, because I started scouring it yesterday, I was like, it's not a great. That's where he the timing of it's awful. It's awful for Florida State. It's not great. I think you have to go just fine. It's not a good situation.
Doesn't sound like
I don't know what to tell you guys. That's not good. And also, it's spending a lot of time on your fourth tight end, but still, it's I like to take a microcosm, make it a macrocosm. I think this is part of that. This fits in line with it neatly.
Or do you take an offensive lineman and play him there with 6'0" lineman at the line?
You could do that. I did look in the transfer pool too. I'm like, is there like a 6'7", 260-pound tackle who you could? That wasn't really available either. There was a kid from Clearwater I liked, but I don't know where he ended up going. So. Anywho, that's not great. So that's where I think, regardless of the tight end, who you end up taking, what it ends up looking like, I think you have to go add one. That's where I think you probably end up taking one offensive lineman, and then that leaves you like, okay, can you take a safety? Can you take a pass rusher? If there's a RB1 that you love, can you take that? Like, that's where I go back to I didn't like the Jaylen King take. Again, caveat, unless there's guys medically retiring or just walk-on types who are just going to leave and not transfer out, just going to be like, I'm not playing football anymore. That could happen. But right now, if you're talking about 4 or so, and you're probably looking at like 6 or 7 positions in need, still, if you're trying to maximize this roster in a pretty damn big year for Mike Norvell and the program as a whole, I think you're kind of running up against it. Is my concern as we record this with the information we have right now, April 28th.
Yeah, so they essentially have, and I don't really consider them walk-ons anymore because it's just a count to 105, but old roster view, they essentially have 15 currently on the roster. I guess it would be 18, including incoming guys, because Jaylen King would be somebody that would probably fall in that old category. Ethan Post, who's a specialist, they're bringing in. Alex Nacco, who's a long snapper, they're bringing in. So that would be the 18. So that is probably where, if you need a number 2, it probably comes from barring another guy suddenly jumping into the portal at a future window. Which, is there even a future window at the end of the summer? I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
So I should know. Hey, what position does Ethan Post play?
He's a kicker punter. I don't remember which one they're bringing him in as.
By or Seminoles, sponsored by
the Turner Group.
You can't play kicker and your last name be Post. Like, come on, man. Are you going to sign Johnny Crossbar next? Like, what are we doing? Exactly like that.
Yeah, I'm buying that.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone look up if there's another portal window while I was distracting us?
No.
Window.
All right, thanks, guys. Great job.
I'm trying to remember if there's one at the end of the summer. Like how
there's not. It's just spring and winter.
Even for grad transfers, correct?
Grad transfers have to be in the same as undergrad this like Friday or whatever.
Listen, someone's going to sue them, and they're going to fold like they do for everything.
The
only people who don't sue the NCAA is Florida State, and they get screwed over all the time from it.
So there is the interesting element of the house settlement, which still isn't settled. The most recent action by the judge was regarding roster limits, and I don't think her comments pertained as much to football as a lot of other sports, but essentially the idea of grandfathering in roster limits. So the idea of 105 being a hard number too is sort of like you're guessing that that's what it's going to be because that's the expectation ultimately. But like most things in the current atmosphere of collegiate athletics, it's not a certainty that 105 will be the roster limit come July or August. There's a reality where in some form or fashion there's a grandfathering in of old numbers, walk-on still counting, because that's somewhat what they're getting at, is it's unfair to walk-ons to cut that many people from different teams, or for other sports where you used to carry 36 and now you're only going to have 30, even though a lot of sports are inflating the number. So we'll see. I'm wholeheartedly against grandfathering anything in anymore in collegiate athletics, because once you start doing it, you seemingly can't stop doing it. But like that is something that's going on with regards to the house settlement and the current arguments with regards to approving that.
I think finding out that Chris is anti-grandfather is just a wild.
Well, we grandfathered in eligibility, and now we have guys that are playing football that have been in it for damn near a decade. So, like,
didn't the quarterback that got drafted by the Saints,
Tyler Shuck's like 30 years old.
He's older. He's like older than Brock Purdy. I'm pretty sure
he was in Trevor Lawrence's prep class.
That's crazy.
I'm at the point where make it 5 years to play 5, be done with it, set a roster limit, be done with it. Just like that is part of what has to be done as we transition into the next level of collegiate athletics, presumably post-house settlement.
Buyer Sonone, sponsored by
the Turner Group.
Chris should be the head of the NCAA.
Bye.
I'd be Ari Gold with the paintball gun.
Yeah, I would watch that movie. Chris,
We talk, and the crazy thing is, much of the NCAA and the structure of it is chancellors, presidents, and ADs. They have a great deal of say in it, and they love to complain about the current structure, but they're also not doing a whole lot to fix the current structure.
What is a chancellor?
It's, I think, essentially a presidential leader of a university with a different title. I presume they probably have to deal with a board or something like that. I don't know. I think there's a school or two in the league who has a chancellor versus a president, but I don't know. I never dealt with it here, never dealt with it personally, so I never really put much thought into it.
There's no way that school, like a chancellor by or Sonome, sponsored by
group.
All chancellors are from North Carolina. Like, there's no way that it's not a
that definitely
Chancellor Bubba.
Chancellor Nee has a nice ring to it.
Sounds like a villain in Star Wars. But
there's a Chancellor College.
I'm so disgusted by all of the setup of collegiate athletics right now, where I just so desperately want like there to be a hard line, like this is how we're doing it, and it is what it is. And is it unfair to some? Probably. But I'm tired of there being litigation, the NCAA deciding we're just not going to fight any litigation, so everything's going to be allowed, and that's the current state we're in right now. And I'm over that. Completely over that.
Germany has chancellors, but I don't think that's a road we want to go down.
So on FSU's portal efforts, before I forget, I know they're still involved with like the safety position. I think they're done at corner after landing Jeremiah Wilson. I know it's a crazy transition, but Jacoby Thomas, the Tennessee safety transfer, he announced he wants to go into the portal, or he's intending to go into the portal. I know Tennessee was working to keep him. He told me over the weekend that he's still going in, but I think it was one of those things where they put his name in last minute on Friday, and his name still hasn't popped into the portal. But yeah, I think if he does go in, FSU would be a team to watch. He played 3 seasons for Rick Stockstill, who's obviously an FSU alum and is now one of their scouts, offensive scout, was the head coach at Middle Tennessee, coached him for 3 years. He transferred to Tennessee, had a pretty good season this past year as like a rotational safety. He's probably in line to start for them this upcoming year. And FSU would try to make a play there, try to get a visit as soon as possible.
Real quick on Thomas, add there Friday at 9:15, Tennessee contact. For what it's worth, he's not officially in the portal. I don't think he's going to be. So that is where it's good.
I know they
definitely seem to be fighting it.
I know that Tennessee, like the media apparently has been more like thinking that he is going to go in over the weekend. So Brendan, what are you laughing at?
My chancellor, I know soon we are going to go down the rabbit hole of German chancellors, but then this popped up, and for the YouTube audience, like I need to show this to you guys.
That is exactly what I think a chancellor looks like.
Look at this painting of Konrad Adenauer from 1949 to 1963. Oh, that's not as weird looking. But the painting is this is wild. This is just wild. I should probably be doing more research.
This is exactly why people watch us.
Look at this.
I'm making that the thumbnail of the YouTube video. I know our podcast audience is loving it.
Go to the YouTube channel and watch it real quick, or Google.
48 minutes in, you'll see what he's talking about.
Konrad Adenauer.
Jesus.
Look at Ludwig Erhard. These look like the Tom Brady court paintings. Oh, look at Angelo is like, no, we're not doing this shit.
She put an end to the drawings. Jeez. All right. Let's move.
All right. Do we want to talk about the NFL draft before we get out of here?
Sure.
So FSU had 2 players picked. Azareye'h Thomas. He had gotten some first round buzz in the pre-draft process. It was weird because he did well at the Senior Bowl. He didn't run well. Like he ran a 4.5, I think flat or low end 4.5, which is slow. His in-game athleticism stuff though was pretty good. So I'm not sure why he didn't go round 2, but he falls to the early 3rd round, 71st overall. The New York Jets take him. Jets had a good draft, hit on their first 3 picks, I think, all on paper, which is all the draft is. But Mason Taylor, in the second round, and I'm blank on the name, the Missouri right tackle.
Let me tell you, watching the Taylor family with Jason Taylor do JETS kind of hurt my heart as a Dolphins fan. I have to put that out there.
So there was in the first off season back after COVID when they were able to start doing camps again, and that first one back, Chris and Zach, the amount of hours that those two put in was crazy. Whereas I was worried about Zach's health; he was falling apart. No offense, he didn't look great. But anyways, the very last one, I went to go help out Chris. I think it was a Sunday or Saturday. It was like a gloomy final one. It was the smallest camp they had. They had a young quarterback there they offered named Luke Cromenhoek. And then there was this dude running around just mossing people. And I was like, hey, and I went over to him. I was like, what's your name? So my name's Mason. And Chris goes, oh, I know who you are. It was Mason Taylor. He was awesome. I don't know why he was ranked as lowly as it was. He was a day one contributor at LSU. We got to watch him in New Orleans as a true freshman make some big plays in that game. Well deserved to be the third tight end in this class. But anyways, AZ
Nick Saban
Thomas
said it was the worst recruiting mistake he ever made, not like going after him.
For sure. None of the in-state schools did either, did they?
No.
I don't remember if Miami did or not.
Miami did. I don't think anyone did. My first experience, I was at one of those youth camps in 2020 that Norvell held all over the state. And I was at the South Florida one, and Mason Taylor was just like on the sideline, I guess, because FSU was kind of starting to recruit him a little bit before he committed to LSU. But yeah, he was just on look in that camp. I'm like, that looks like a dude. And then, yeah, obviously, like you said, he goes and becomes an immediate contributor at an SEC school.
So on AZ Thomas, most of the buzz surrounding like actual draft days was 45 to 60 range. That was, I think Daniel Jeremiah had him ranked in that ballpark. A lot of mock drafts had him going there. A lot of teams drafting from about 44 to 52-ish were cornerback type needing teams. Now, a few guys went there. Will Johnson was one of them. Will Johnson's probably a top 10 pick if he never got hurt last year. Great football player.
Apparently he has some chronic knee injuries. Benjamin Morrison, 53rd.
Yeah.
Also a guy who probably is a top 20 pick if he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, and taken by a head coach who played with his dad previously. So there was some ties there and trust there. So those two guys move into that range, and I think that caused a little bit of a slide for other guys in that group. So we see a slide of roughly, 20 picks, which sounds like a lot, but in reality of an NFL draft, I don't really feel like it is. Jets, I think, is a good landing spot. Aaron Glenn's talking about him. If you haven't seen that clip, go find it. It's on the Jets official site. I also put a quote in the AZ Thomas story on the thread where he's just talking about the way he likes that he plays. And Aaron Glenn's a guy that I feel highly confident in him knowing what a defensive football player looks like. I think it's a good landing spot. I mean, that's really what the NFL draft is at the end of the day. There's plenty of guys that get drafted because they're viewed as being this commodity at this number. The reality is the team taking you going to use you in your most effective manner, and do you fit what they want to do? And I think in AZ's case, that's probably true. And, we'll see what the Pats are going to be under new leadership, but I think that's probably also true for Farmer. They definitely have a need in the defensive trenches. Josh Farmer went in the fourth round late to the New England Patriots. And I think he'll have a real opportunity there to try to make it too deep for them and help on the interior.
I really like the Pats draft a lot, and that includes Josh Farmer being a good value. And that was later than we'd expected too. And that wasn't us, being bullishly optimistic on it. Like, he was considered like a top 100 prospect, even with a poor, or not even poor, just like subpar pre-draft process.
I enjoyed the draft. Third day always wears on, but good God, the Shador showcase this year was just like, I do not watch ESPN. I go out of my way not to watch ESPN on situations where I can watch something that I think is anyways better. And the NFL Network, I thought, did a much better job navigating that than some of the viral clips we've seen from the other.
You didn't want to hear Mel Kiper complaining?
I mean, good God, dude, you love Jimmy Clausen. Shut the hell up. Like, just stop. Like,
he did come off as kind of, I'm not going to say it. Hey, well, no, I'm not going to say that either. But also, if you were missing any Shador Sanders coverage, our Facebook page had
Oh, God.
Chris, you really need to stop
I had buddies reach. I had multiple people reach out. We put Knowles 24/7 content on there, and then most of the other content is out of our control. So
I'll share the Slack message if you want me to share the Slack message.
Do it. Read it now. Let's pull that up and can we get
I
it?
understand it's newsworthy, but
German
I don't
chancellors?
think we need 24 stories about it in a 24-hour span. That's just me. I don't think.
And you're not even exaggerating. I think it literally was that.
Oh, it was absurd. It was like every 10 minutes. Yeah, I didn't handle that real well as we were going through it Friday into Saturday. Like I get it is newsworthy. I understand what that name is and the controversy that surrounds it and the way it just sparks people, good, bad, ugly, all of the above. I just it was a bad quarterback draft. He's among the bad quarterbacks. So he definitely slid. And was it newsworthy? Yeah, but people lost their minds over it. Quinn Ewers slid too. Far less coverage of that.
Oh my God. You guys see Quinn Ewers' room with all the dead animals all across it? But he had a dead dinosaur there. So he had a bunch of deer on the wall behind him. It was like some hunting cabin. It is exactly what you expect a guy from Texas named Quinn Ewers to have his house look like, I guess.
And he's a dolphin.
But the T-Rex head, I did not anticipate. That caught me off guard. I thought it to be wild. This is why I love the NFL draft. We are some of the best parts of the weekend, best being subjective. The most entertaining or interesting, those are subjective too. But Shador Sanders free fall, say what you will about it. That was cinema. That was TV. Quinn Ewers, all of a sudden just a little backdrop of there's Quinn Ewers with a dinosaur head in his room. Or hey, there's a Tyler Show with his beautiful girlfriend and a dog all hugging each other. Awesome. It's just, there are storylines within storylines.
The prank calls were the worst.
That was kind of screwed up.
Yeah.
I love how the Eagles and Ravens draft. I'm always impressed. I just feel like they always that pick comes and you're like, that guy would really fit what they do. And that's who they take. It's kind of weird that they're always pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. They have, they feast on others' mistakes. Yeah, I love the NFL draft. I am happy that a couple of guys we've gotten to cover, since high school, were able to go get drafted. The AZ reaction with mom yelling, Stephanie Thomas got a chance to do a story on them and their relationship back before the season. That was cool. Landing spots, Chris did a really nice job kind of updating where everyone's going to be going. Fentrell Cypress lands in a really nice spot, I thought, for Washington. Ryan Fitzgerald went to where? Chargers?
Carolina.
So yeah, got Masterland somewhere?
Nothing yet. I reached out to his agent. I haven't heard back. NFL.com has an official list of UDFAs, which basically means it went through the team. And I noticed I think only 1 or 2 punters assigned to teams so far, so there's still plenty of time. And plenty of those teams aren't close to filled out with regards to the amount of players you usually take as UDFAs, undrafted free agents. So I'm interested, but I am surprised that he's not one we kind of heard about, within 90 minutes of the draft ending when there usually is and they talked about this on NFL Network. I forget where Jeremiah was working at the time. I think he was with Deuce Staley, so that might have been, I don't know.
He worked for Philadelphia and Deuce Staley.
So I think it was when he was with Eagles.
That franchise.
They talked about how when the 7th round rolled around, they used to be on the phone with running a handful of running backs that they valued. And being like, hey, we're going to offer you this much money and a dream to come sign with us. And a lot of that goes on. Now,
that's interesting. With DJ, in the 7th round, I heard, and now 5th round.
I'm sure.
Start as early as then. Maybe not to the full swing where you're getting dozens of people on a prospect, but those calls start happening as early as the 5th. That's wild. Because that's still 3 hours to go.
We'll keep monitoring that. Some guys got rookie minicamp invites. Ja'Kai Douglas, New York Giants. I believe Lawrence Toafili got one with the Jets. I'm waiting to hear back from Toafili officially on that. So there's those examples. I saw Jeremiah Byers mention something with the Cardinals. I don't know if that's a rookie camp mini invite or a true UDFA signing.
I think he's trying to have his baby, Chris, now that he's not.
No, Jeremiah breaks my heart because I loved the athletic ability he possessed, and I thought he's a kid that could have really been molded into something, and it just never happened. I truthfully think he got worse in his career at FSU, and that disappoints the living hell out of me.
Yeah, the same. Darius Washington was legitimately awesome at the start of a preseason camp, and just got
Byers, though, is blessed with a little bit more length, a little bit lighter feet, real long. There's a lot to mold there. That's a kind of frame and body type, and he's a guy that ended up starting, I think, 50 games in his collegiate career. It should have been more, and it disappoints me that it wasn't.
Yeah, there's an embodiment of, I think, 2024 in general. there was a lot of meat left on the bone there for that roster. Anyways, is what it is. So I think we're good. Anything else here, gents? We got to wrap up? No?
I think we're good.
No, visitors this week, as Zach went over earlier, with regards to transfer guys. High school stuff's calmed down. Coaches are on the road a decent amount, so they're dropping in on guys. You'll see 27 offers, probably a 26 offer here and there. Most of it will be just checking in on primary targets, trying to shore up things for May and June officials. That's kind of where we're at.
Cool. All right. Well, stay abreast. For Chris Nee, Zach Blossing, I'm Brendan Sonome. This has been On the Bench, sticking to the landing.